All right. And so for those of you who haven't joined us before, we do record these and we send out the recording in case there's a part of it that you want to go back and look through or just wonder how did Kevin say that? Um, you'll be able to do that. So welcome to everybody. My name is Kevin Barrett. I am with True North Professional Development here in Seattle. And of course, I have my sidekick with me, Mary Hambleton of Soul Canyon Training and Development in Medford, Oregon. And we have been doing these almost 4 years now,
Yeah.
uh, where on the first Wednesday of every month, we do a lunch and learn and have a different topic. And we trade it off every other month as well, so that you'll hear me today talking about our topic, and then Mary the next month, and she'll give us a little preview of next month's presentation, lunch and learn at the end today. So let me share my screen. And let's go ahead and get started. So we are today covering maintaining workday balance and productivity. I love this topic because there's just so many reasons to revisit it, right? Like we get caught in habits, and sometimes isn't the most productive or balanced way for us to move forward. So always good to get a little bit of a refresher on this. As we go through the day today, Mary will be monitoring chat for us. So if you want to pop a question into chat or a comment into chat, please feel free to, and I will ask for some input along the way as well. And you can always, because we've got a relatively small group, feel free to just unmute if you do have a question or a comment along the way. So let's go ahead and get started. So our agenda today, we are going to talk about the struggle is real, right? So trying to find that balance and that workday productivity can be a real challenge, particularly I think over the last couple of years with so much remote work going on, so many Zoom calls going on, it can be a bit of a challenge. So we'll talk a little bit about that. We're going to talk about discovering your prime times. Those are the times that are when you are the most productive. We'll talk about how you figure out what's your controllable time versus your uncontrollable time. And so it's kind of amazing because most of us have relatively little controllable time, right? Because we get eaten up by various meetings and various different things going on. So we'll talk a little bit about that. And then the bulk of our time is going to be spent talking about planning and prioritizing your time. So we'll go through some techniques. We're going to talk about Zoom and meeting fatigue, as I mentioned. We'll give you some resources on how to stop procrastination and some additional resources beyond that as well. So with that, let's go ahead and dig in. And I want to do a little activity right off the bat here. So let's do a little productivity check-in. If you have a piece of paper handy, or a notebook, or a journal, that would be a good spot to be able to do this. And I'm gonna ask you 5 different questions, and I just want you to jot down the answers to those questions, and then we'll see what result you get out of that. All right. So here we go. First question is, have you identified your most important task for today? So I want you to think about just today, the way that today has gone. Did you identify the most important task for you today? Yes or no? All right. Question 2, did you take a break in the last 2 hours? All right. Question 3, on a scale of 1 to 5, how focused do you feel today? 1 being not very focused, 5 being fully focused. All right. Question 4, on a scale of 1 to 5, how is your energy level today? Is it 1 drained or up to 5 energized? Scale of 1 to 5. And our 5th question, is your workspace organized and free of distractions? Yes or no? All right, so let's take a look at this. If you answered no or rated yourself below 3 in any area, take a moment to jot a note to yourself on how to address it. What do you want to do? What do you want to change? So, for example, if your focus is low, maybe you need to take a short break. Maybe you need to reevaluate your task priorities. All right. So just jot yourself a note. What needs to change after this lunch and learn is over to help you be more focused and set up for an energized rest of your day? And if it includes a nap, I can relate. All right. So let's see if anybody wants to give some answers. If you want to unmute, or if you want to put in chat, what did you discover, and maybe what are you going to do differently this afternoon? Anybody?
So Kevin, when you got to number 5 and you said, is your workspace organized or free of distractions? So I'm the type of person that has lots of pictures on my desk and that sort of thing. So I think my space needs a little bit more organized. And I usually always have my glass of water filled next to my desk. But I realized I drank the whole thing already and it's empty. So on our first break, I got to go fill it up.
Okay. Really good one. All right. Good deal. So let's see. Kate says, definitely need to organize my workspace. Laura says, what if one has more than one important task for the day? Well, it's all about prioritizing, right? And we're going to, in fact, talk about how do we prioritize what's the most important thing. I think a lot of times we get distracted because we're not clear on what's the most important thing I want to get done today. Or that most important thing that we want to get done today isn't the thing we want to work on today. So we'll talk more about that as well. More intentional about my breaks. Yeah, I love that. Now, I know from years and years of experience for myself that I need to have little micro breaks. Every 15, 20 minutes, I need to take a little bit of a break and just check news headlines, and then I can go back. Like the break is very, very short. But if I don't do that, it's much more challenging to me. I can absolutely turn it on when there's a project that I need to work on and that I need to completely focus on. I can absolutely do that. But in general, my work days, I know I need to get those little micro breaks in. Okay. All right. Let's see, Danielle, I'm not actually super busy today, so it's been hasn't been too challenging to take a break, stay organized on top of things, but it can definitely change depending on how busy I am. Absolutely, right? For sure. And in fact, even what Melanie's doing right now on that treadmill, working through, right? At appropriate times, that can be really, really helpful to get your mind in the right space and to get yourself organized a little bit better for what you want to get done, even if you're doing that and not working while you're doing it, right? So love it, Melissa. So focus and energy, big event here today. So maybe shut my door and hydrate. Love it. Yeah, love it. All right, so we're going to talk about a lot of the things that were mentioned there. How do we keep those distractions away from us, right? And how do we try to maintain that focus and that energy as we work through the day? So thank you all for the feedback that you gave related to that. All right, so another question here. I'd love to hear what you have to say in chat, or again, you can unmute. So why do we struggle with maintaining workday balance and productivity? What gets in your way? What are the obstacles from you having workday balance and productivity?
I can chime in on it.
Yeah.
I think one of my biggest things is interruptions. Obviously being in a cubicle environment, it's so common to be asked questions over the cubicle wall, eavesdropping on other people's things,
Yep.
just in case that pertains to me or they have the wrong information. And then I also just find myself struggling with how to prioritize my work. I'll start one task and then I'll shift my priority and be like, I probably should work on this other thing. And so basically throughout the day, I'm just bouncing off of 5 different tasks, not completing any of them.
And one of the challenges with that is our brain, right? Because our brain will go, oh, I need to order my son a raincoat, right? So boom, hop on Amazon, and then 20 minutes later, you're in some internet rabbit hole, right? So yeah, absolutely. Great. Thank you, Melanie, for that. And also you agree with that. So Danielle says kind of hard to identify the most important task to start with. So we'll talk more about that. Cell phones, constant interruptions or text calls, feeling overwhelmed by the task. Thank you, Michelle and Keita. Great responses, everybody. So we'll give you a few here that really tend to be the ones that pop up most for people. One is that we confuse busyness with productivity, right? So ever had a day where you're just slammed all day long and then you get to the end of the day and go, what did I get done? I don't think I got done what I wanted to get done, right? And so we get kind of focused on that busyness thinking we're busy, right? But are we really being productive? Are we really getting done what needs to get done? So we'll give some strategies on how to overcome that. Secondly, we sometimes choose to do the work that we want to do instead of the work that we need to do, right? So we all like to go to that thing that we want to get done, and it feels great to get that done, but then we've got to slog through the rest of the day on all the stuff that we don't want to do, right? Or it becomes one of those things that we procrastinate on, and we get to the deadline of it, and then suddenly we've got to put all this energy towards it. I'm certainly a procrastinator, and what I've learned is that a lot of creative energy can come out of that. I can come up with some really amazing things, but it may not be the quality that I would like it to be, right? So we'll talk about how to manage that as well. We fail to prioritize properly. So we're going to spend some time talking about prioritization and how you can do that. There's a great tool to help you be able to do that. And then we're sometimes easily distracted, right? So got that cat video going, and then suddenly I'm watching 17 cat videos, and isn't that cool, right? And I'm on my cat video Facebook page looking at cat videos. So that's some things that we need to do. We need to kind of make sure that we're able to overcome that distractedness that we have. All right. All right. Yeah. And Keita says feeling overwhelmed by a task. Absolutely. So we'll give you some strategies around that as well. So let's start just by talking a little bit about discovering your prime times. This, for me, was a huge, huge, huge step in the right direction for me. I am by no means perfect in managing my time and the way that I operate, but this was huge. So what is your prime time? Well, your prime time are those best times for you that you can focus on the things that are important, difficult, complex, or require decision making, right? That's when you really need to put the most energy towards those things, is when your prime times are, right? So think about that. Where are your prime times? And most importantly, block them out on your calendar. So I'm going to show you kind of what I have done. So here's a day, right? I know that my most productive times are between 7 to 9 a.m. in the morning and between 2 and 4 in the afternoon. So I have actually blocked those out on my calendar. I have a reoccurring block on those times. Now, for most of us, we don't start work until maybe 8 or 9, right? But for me, that 7 to 9 thing is really important. I don't want a meeting at 8 o'clock. Because that's a prime time. That's where I want to put those things where I have to make decisions or I have to get stuff done, right? As a procrastinator, that's a big time for me, right? To try to get stuff done. So figure out when your prime time is, set up a recurring block on all your business days. Okay. Now you're probably going like, oh, I can't do that. No way I can do that, right? But I guarantee you, try it. Here's where the key is, though. Review it weekly and then remove as needed. So if I have 7 to 9 blocked out Monday through Friday next week, right? And I have 2 to 4 blocked out, on Sunday night or on Monday morning, I'm going to look at my calendar and I'm going to go, you know what? I don't need all that time. So I'm going to release some of them. And I might decide that, oh, on that Thursday, I actually need to work on the budget, but I only need to work on it for an hour. So I may grab an hour of that, but then release the other hour of it, right? What I don't want is I don't want even 3 weeks from now, somebody grabbing a meeting time in my prime time blocks without talking to me. So if somebody calls me and says, hey, you're blocked out on that Thursday from 2 to 4, and I wanted to do a meeting at 3 o'clock. Is there any way that we could do that? Then I'm going to look at it and I'm going to decide, and okay, yeah, I'll release it, right? But what this did for me was it really gave me a lot more control over my calendar, right? So I'm actually releasing those blocks early in the week, either Sunday night or Monday. And if I don't need them, I take them off. All right. The other thing that I've done that I want to mention here is Calendly.com. If you're not familiar with it, I feel like I should be a spokesperson for it because I utilize it like crazy. What Calendly does, and particularly if you're working with outside people outside your organization, this is awesome. So you have clients or whatnot, you can give them your Calendly link. They will get a look at your calendar. They don't get a look at the specific meetings, but they can see when is blocked. You can actually set up to say, anytime I have a block, I want a half-hour break before people can start scheduling, right? So it'll block that out for you. And then what they do is they say, okay, I'm going to grab this time slot, right? On that Friday morning, I'm going to grab that time slot. And if it's a Zoom call that you want to do, then it'll actually send the Zoom link. It'll send an invitation to them and to you and put it on your calendar. It is great. Working with clients, it's absolutely fantastic way to be able to work. And so I really, really highly recommend Calendly. Check it out. And by the way, it's free. If you're just using one, if you have multiple different types of meetings that you can set up. If you're doing just one meeting, it's free. If you do more than one meeting, then you have to pay. All right. Highly recommend it. All right. Let's take a look then at understanding controllable versus uncontrollable time, right? So controllable time being that time where you have control over it, right? So let's look at what is uncontrollable time. Uncontrollable time is anything that where it's a crisis, an interruption of some kind, a system imposed activity. All right. So what I mean by system imposed activity is that my boss has his team meeting, right? All of us that are at my level, we have a meeting on Wednesdays at 1 o'clock. So that's not controllable time for me. That's uncontrollable, right? I have to take the bank deposit at 9 o'clock every morning. That's uncontrollable time for me, right? I have a certain meeting that I have to go to, something like that. Those would be system imposed activities. Or if there's some kind of a system that you work with where you have to enter in information at a specific time, those are all system imposed activities. So crises, interruptions, and system imposed activities are all part of your uncontrollable time. All right, so think about planning out your time. And what I suggest to you is try this for a couple of weeks. All right. You're going to start by just assuming 50% controllable time and 50% uncontrollable time. From there, you need to determine what are your prime times and what are your down times. And I almost think the down times are in some cases as important, if not more important than the prime times, right? When are those times where you feel you're dragging, right? That you're not going to concentrate, right? If somebody puts a budget in front of you at 10 o'clock on a Tuesday, you're going to be just looking, like a deer in the headlights, right? So know when those prime times are, when a budget is great for you, and the down times when they're not. All right. schedule your activities to fit those blocks. So just like you saw where I had a block from 2 to 4 and I took away the 2 hours, but I put in the budget, right? That's the kind of stuff that I want to focus on during those prime times. So schedule your activities to fit those blocks. All right. And then observe this over a week or 2 weeks and determine whether 50% is right. Yeah, 50% of your controllable time, 50% uncontrollable. Now, I have folks all the time in my classes and when we do these lunch and learns that are like, I can tell you right now, I don't control 50% of my time, right? I'm lucky if it's 25% of my time. But this gives you an opportunity to really hone that and see what that controllable time is. So here's a little equation for you, right? You start with your hours in a day. You're going to subtract any crises, right? So we all have crises that we know are going to take some time out of our week. We then subtract out any interruptions that we think we have. And by the way, if you're tracking this for a week or 2 weeks, you're going to get a good sense for how often that happens for you. And then minus the system imposed activities, right? The bank run that I need to make or the team meeting with my colleagues. And then that's going to get you what your controllable time is, right? Now, beyond that, you may have to look at some other things to try to increase that controllable time. And we'll talk more about that here as we go. All right. But getting a sense for what's your controllable times, what's your uncontrollable times, I think really, really important. Here's the other thing to kind of think about as well is to really beware of what's called Parkinson's law. So Cyril Northcote Parkinson wrote about this and he said, work complicates to fill the available time. So if I have a project that I need to get done and I have 2 hours to get it done, guess what? I'm probably going to get it done. If it's 3 hours, I'm going to put the same amount of effort or maybe a little less effort because I've got more time to get it done, right? I can allow maybe some more of those interruptions. And if I have 8 hours, I'm going to put even less effort in it at the maximum because I have 8 hours to get it done, right? This is why those of us who are procrastinators, why that procrastination works for us in the short run, because we have only 2 hours and we got to get that done, right? We got to hit that deadline by the end of the day. So we put a lot of energy towards it. But again, the quality may not be what we hope it would be. All right. So beware of that, right? Okay.
Or the toll that it takes on you, right?
Yes.
That's one of the things that you can crunch
ahead,
it,
Mary.
but you can't do it all the time or you burn out.
No. I'll tell a quick story on that. For some of you, I've probably told this story before, but just after 9/11, when they had TSA, they put TSA in and they put TSA at the gate, right? And I used to be the guy that slid in just before the gate closed, at the airport. And I was in LA one time and the lines were way longer. I was in late and I was going to be really pressed to make it there. And I got through, checked in. I'm heading up the escalator to the gates and I hear this announcement. Kevin Barrett, please come to gate whatever it is. The doors are closing. So I ran and I ran and I ran. And I was sweating like crazy by the time I got to the gate. And this is when TSA was doing gate check at the gate. Right. And so, of course, who were they going to open the bags of? The guy that comes up and walks up calmly or the guy that comes up sweating like crazy, right? Hauling his carry-on bags. So, of course, they checked my bags. And then I had to do the long walk of shame down the aisle to my seat towards the back of the plane because, everybody was waiting. They were delayed waiting for me. That was the day I just decided, you know what, I can't do that anymore. It's too much. As Mary said, it's like the toll of it was just too much. So I changed. Now I'm usually at the gate 2 hours in advance and I feel good about that. All right. So let's see if this is you. Can't say no. I'll do it later. I don't know what to do first, right? So this came up in some of the comments that were there. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about how do we manage that better. And I want to start with a quote here from the CEO of Berkshire Hathaway, Warren Buffett. He says the difference between successful people and really successful people is that really successful people say no to almost everything. All right. His advice is this: learn to manage yourself, not your time, yourself. So we all wake up with the same number of hours, minutes, and seconds in a day. We can't control time. So focus on what you can control and choose your time wisely. That means you really got to get your head in the game to do planning, right? To do thinking about how you're going to get stuff done. All right. So here is a great tool that will help you to do that. It's called the priority matrix. And it is a box like this, 4 little boxes in it. You will notice if you look at the bottom of each of those blocks, if you look at the top half, it says important on both. If you look at the bottom half, it says not important on both. If you look at the left side, they say urgent. If you look at the right side, it says not urgent, right? So it's the intersection of important and urgent. All right, let's look at each one of these different blocks. So we call the first block the manage block. These are short-term crises and problems. They are important and they are urgent, right? You have to take care of it right now, right? If I'm managing a construction sites, right, and I get a call from somebody at the construction site that says, hey, Bill just used an air hammer and put a nail into his leg, right? Is it important? Yes. Is it urgent? Yes. I need to do something about it right now, right? I can't say, hey, I'm taking my wife to lunch. I'll swing by there afterwards, right? It's something that has to be taken care of right away. All right. You will find that maybe you've got a lot of stuff that's in that manage quadrant. You've got a lot of short-term crises and problems. And quadrant 2 might be the reason. So look at quadrant 2. It says focus on long-term strategic goals, things that are important but are not urgent. That budget, the scheduling of your people, right? Various different other things that are really important, but you don't need to do them right this minute. All right. If we don't schedule focus time, we're going to find that we're probably spending a lot of time in quadrant 1. So the key for us is to really look at blocking out time, which fits with our blocking that we talked about earlier, for those things that are the important, the things that I need to make decisions on, the things that I really need to focus on. I need to have time on my calendar to focus on that. All right. If I don't block it out, I'm going to run into a crisis. So think about a budget, right? If I have a month to get the budget done, no problem, right? Easy. All right. Well, now I haven't done anything and it's 2 weeks later. Okay, I got 2 weeks. Yeah. All right. I'm a little bit more it's a little bit more important and a little bit more urgent that I do something, but I got 2 weeks, right? It's a week. I haven't done anything. Now I got to focus on it, right? I'm getting a little bit anxious and stressed out about it, but it's not my super priority right now because I've got other little crises I got to deal with. All right. And then, oh my God, the budget's due today at 5 o'clock, right? I really have to kick this budget out. I have to get it done, right? So now what should have been in my focus quadrant becomes something that is a short-term crisis or problem that I have to deal with. If we don't deal with them in the focus quadrant, they are going to become manage quadrant. They're going to be something that we're going to have to focus on. All right. So the better planning that you can do on your long-term strategic goals, the less time you're going to spend in quadrant one. All right. So I work with a lot of clients who I'm constantly, that's the nature of my job, or that's the nature of my company. We're constantly in short-term crises or problems, right? But when we start to peel back the onion a little bit and take a look at, are you blocking out time to do those really important things? They're finding they're not, right? So important, but not urgent. All right. Quadrant 3, this is what we call the avoid quadrant. All right. So distractions and interruptions, they are urgent, but not important, right? If Carl shows up at my desk, that makes it urgent. I have to talk to Carl, right? But when Carl tells me that he wants to recap the football game from Sunday, and I don't have time to do that, I have to make a choice, right? And the choice should be, in many cases, that I want to avoid that. So I may have to redirect Carl and say, hey, Carl, you're going to be in the lunchroom, right? At lunchtime. I'd love to talk to you, but I really don't have time right now. All right. And this is where I run into a lot of folks who don't feel comfortable doing that, don't feel comfortable defending their own time. They don't want to turn Carl away, right? I had an employee of mine who I adore. I still love her. We talk, we haven't worked together in years, but we talk all the time. All right. She's terrific, but she could show up at my door and easily take an hour of my time, right? If I didn't put some kind of restriction on that and say, I can't talk right now, right? Or my favorite one was, she used to say, do you have a minute? And I would say, I have exactly 1 minute. What are you going to tell me in 1 minute, right? Or I'd get up and grab my water bottle. If you want to walk down to the lunchroom with me to fill up my water bottle and tell me on the way, great. Or I'm on my way to a meeting, right? If before I walk in that conference room door, you can tell me, great, right? That's all about managing yourself, right? And keeping in mind what's your most important priorities, and managing yourself that way. Again, some people feel really uncomfortable with that. You've got to work on that to be able to really do that well. All right. All right. So that is our avoid quadrant. The last one is limit. So time wasting activities. That's that little cat video, right? It is not that we don't need those, right? We need to have some times during the day where the cat video is perfectly appropriate, right? But if it's 10:30 in the morning and I've been there since 8 and all I've done is watch cat videos, right? That's not moving me towards my priorities, right? So I really need to limit those and get discipline around myself. The things in the limit quadrant are not important and they're not urgent. Okay. So this should help you to really start to think, what are those most important things? What are the things that you need to get done? And then which quadrant should they be in, right? If they're the most important, they should be in quadrant 2. All right. Laura mentioned before, sometimes we've got competing priorities, right? We have to decide which is the most important for us to get done. Or we might have that thing that at 8:30, our boss told us, I need to have you get this done today, right? And so you focus on that. And then by 11, they come by and say, I need to have you focus on this other thing. Okay, which is the priority, right? So we have to manage that to go, okay, boss, which is the priority? At 8:30, you told me this was the priority. At 11, you're telling me this is the priority. I can't focus on both. So which is the priority, right? That's all about managing yourself and really managing your environment, right? All right. At this point,
You're
let's
talking
stop at
about being able to, excuse me, are you talking about being able to prioritize to other people's expectations?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that can be a real challenge for people. Here's the thing that I run into a lot, and I know this from my own career. Most of us do what we do because we are service-oriented people, right? We want to say yes. We want to know how we can help, right? But if we're helping everybody else, right, then we're in trouble, right? It's like Mary and I've talked about this before. Uh, when you're on the plane, right, they're talking about the masks coming down. Who should you put the mask on first? You're putting the mask on yourself before you're helping others, right? So we have to learn how to do that when we're managing time. We want to say yes to everything, but we know we can't do everything right. We can't do everything to the quality level. So yeah, it is about managing the expectations of other people and learning how to talk to people in a way that you do that and you're minimizing pissing them off. So all right, well, let's stop at the bus stop here and just see, does anybody have any comments, questions, anything that they want to add to this conversation? You can feel free to jump into chat or unmute if you'd like. All right. Hearing none, I'm going to move us forward then. So I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the techniques that you can use to help manage getting things done, getting your priorities done. So this is the Pomodoro technique. Pomodoro is Italian for tomato. And this came out of these little tomato timers, right? Using these little tomato timers to help you with a way to structure your work. All right. So the general Pomodoro technique is this: you work in 30-minute segments. You have 25 minutes of work nonstop, focused on what it is you want to get done. And then you take a 5-minute break. Now, I'll talk about some of the strategies around this here in a moment, but that focus time, that 25 minutes of work, is really important. Now, you may find over time that you need to adjust that. So maybe 20 minutes of work works best for you, or 15 minutes works best for you. That is a really important piece of it, but taking the little break from that priority is really important. All right, so here are some key steps. The first thing is, and by the way, I've done this works awesome for me. First thing is, have everything you need to do the work, right? If you need a calculator, if you need a Sharpie, if you need a map, whatever it is you need, have that and have that ready for you to go. All right. Shut out distractions. So silence your phone. You might even tell people around you, hey, I really got to focus for the next half hour here. So if you could keep it down, or if you could not interrupt me, that would be awesome. All right. Set a timer. So if it's 25 minutes that you're going to work, set the timer and get focused. All right. If you get distracted, write yourself a note to do on the next break or in the next segment, right? If it pops into your head that you need to get your son a raincoat, right? You're just going to write on a little sticky note, raincoat, right? And set it aside, and then get back to being focused on what you need to be focused on. All right. When you take a break, this is really important. Stretch, walk, get away from the work, right? Go fill up your water bottle, go get another cup of coffee, right? Walk around the building, whatever it is, right? Get yourself away from the desk. All right. When you're back to work, repeat the cycle using the same process. And after 2 hours, take a longer break. At 4 hours, take at least 30 minutes. All right. Now, is your whole day structured like this? Probably not. It's probably going to be on those really most important things. And you may do one 30-minute segment, or you may do 4 30-minute segments, right? Danielle says, I feel so much more energized on days when I get to take a walk outside during my lunch break. Amazing, right? when we're in the Pacific Northwest and we have those gray skies and the sun comes out, great time to go take that break, go take that walk, right? But even if we can't, just taking a walk can really make a big difference. All right. All right. So this is a technique, right? It may not work for you like it has worked for me, but I think worth a shot. I would highly, highly recommend it. Love that, Laura. So this technique could be great for household chore procrastination. A lot of stuff can be cleaned and tidied in 25 minutes. Yeah,
It's really,
absolutely.
it works really good if you have kids too. So you set the timer and everybody does.
Yeah, how fast can we get this done? You got it. Absolutely. All right. To add to what you said, Laura, if you're like me, right, and you have here's a list of 20 things that we're going to get done this weekend, right? I panic. 20 things. Oh my God, 20 things. How are we going to get all that done? All right. Well, yeah. The first 7 are like a minute and a half, right? That time element can play tricks on your head a little bit. All right. All right. Another technique. Thank you guys all for chiming in. So this is what I call Steve's Spotlight. I had a guy who worked for me. I was a software training manager, and I hired, Susie says, my kids, and I call it 10 minutes of hell for cleaning up everyone's room. Music blasting. Love it. I love it. Excellent. All right. So this is Steve's Spotlight. Steve worked for me, and he was my scheduler, and he sat in a cube outside of my office. Well, all those people that used to line up outside of my door started lining up outside of his cube, right? And he found that it was very difficult to find that structured time. So he actually ran to the craft store one night, and he came back the next day with a stoplight that he had built. And he had to do a little bit of training with people around the office, but he said, if the stoplight is green, enter freely, right? Feel free to come in because I'm not focused on anything crucially important that I can't have a conversation with you, right? If the stoplight is yellow, proceed with caution. And then finally, if it's red, don't even think about it unless it's an emergency, right? So this took a few weeks for him to train the office on that, but they got really good at it. Oh, Steve's light is on yellow, right? Steve, do you think you could answer a question for me, right? Or if it's red, okay, I'm not even gonna, ask. He actually had people who would say to him, your light's red right now. When do you think it'll be yellow or green? And he, of course, just shoot him a dirty look, right? It's red. Don't even think about it. All right. So this is just a strategy, a way for you to be able to manage, right, those interruptions and those folks that are show up unexpectedly, right? All right. So we've talked about a few different things to be able to protect your time, but I want to give you a couple of other ones. And again, this is stuff that some people feel rather uncomfortable with. All right. So set clear boundaries, let others know your availability and your preferred times for communication and your preferred types of communication. Really important that you do that. Right? All right, so Danielle says, I love on WebEx, we can put on do not disturb for a certain amount of time, like an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, and it mutes notifications. Love that. Absolutely love that. That's on my list here, protect your time. All right, so let's keep moving on. Delegate when possible. So delegate tasks to others to free up your time. A lot of people don't delegate because they feel like it takes too much time to do. Yes, it is an investment of time at the beginning, but your schedule will start easing up. All right. Turn off notifications, just like Danielle said, silence non-essential notifications on your devices. All right. Use do not disturb. So force your phone calls to go to voicemail. Anytime I'm on a client meeting, I do that. I don't want to be interrupted, right? We already have the situation, right? You've seen the people that you're having a conversation with and they're looking at their phone, right? What's the priority? Is it you? No, it's the phone, right? So, all right. And last, practice saying no. So politely decline requests or suggest alternative times that work better for you. That is a process to do. For some of us, we feel very, very uncomfortable with that, but try it. Okay. All right. Let's talk about Zoom and meeting fatigue, right? It is real. And in fact, there is some great research about that I want to share with you here. All right. So take a look at the graphic on the left-hand side there. And if you look at the pictures on the top, this is your brain when you don't get a break, but you're in meeting after meeting after meeting. All right. So you start off with the blues and the greens, that is much less stress. By the time you're in meeting 2, right, you haven't had a break in between and you go right into meeting 2, you're getting some of the reds, more stress. You're losing focus. All right. By the time you get to meeting 3, look at all that stress, right? You're losing lots and lots of focus. And then interestingly, look at the 4th meeting, right? It's the 4th meeting in a row. The 4th meeting in a row, suddenly you're having less stress. Well, what did the research show is the reason for that? Because by then you don't care and you're not focused anyway, right? Been in that 4th meeting and you're just like, okay, whatever, like I can't even focus on what you're saying. Okay. All right, look at the graphics on the bottom there. If you're taking a break in between those meetings, you're feeling less stress, you're much more focused all the way through. So breaks between meetings allow the brain to reset, reducing cumulative buildup of stress across meetings. Back-to-back meetings can decrease your ability to focus and engage. Right? Some companies now are saying 1-hour meetings don't work. 50 minutes, that's the max that you can do, right? Give people that time for a break. Because here's the other thing, transition between meetings can be a source of high stress, right? I have to shift my brain from one topic to the next. I don't have time to go to the bathroom, right? I don't have time to fill up my water bottle, let alone switch my brain to what are we talking about now, right? All of that can cause stress. And by the way, this is Microsoft Human Factors Lab and Stanford University. All right. All right, let's look at this a little more closely. So jumping directly from one meeting to another causes spikes of stress. So taking breaks between conversations can ease that stress. So if you look up at the top there, there's no break. You can see that the stress level during those meetings is high. At the bottom, here's what happens when you add a break in between those. So you can see on the top one, the stress intensity continues to rise, where if you're taking a break in between the meetings, your stress intensity levels out and stays pretty level. All right. So big difference between taking breaks between meetings and not taking breaks. All right. So key findings of this study. Powering through back-to-back meetings is much more stressful and much less productive. You become much less productive towards the end, right? So find break activities that calm your mind. Think about, do you really need a meeting? Can it be done on a phone call? Is chatting with somebody, is that an option for you, right? How can you handle this information? Do I need to be in the meeting, right? How many meetings do we all get invited to that we don't even need to be there, right? So make meetings more intentional, have an agenda, start and stop on time, limit who's in the meeting, recap the meeting, all of that really important. And then do what you can to keep the participants engaged and energized. So have somebody else lead a discussion, use engagement tools, whiteboards, breakout rooms, all of that can help a lot. All right. All right. I'm noticing I got 7 minutes here, but I do want to pause and just see, does anybody have any questions, comments at this point? Feel free to jump in. All right. I want to mention this book. If you run virtual meetings, this is a friend of Mary's and mine called John Chen. And this book is phenomenal. Lots of different ways that you can make your virtual meetings more engaging. I won't have time to tell the full story here, but I'll just tell you quick. The very first meeting I was in with John Chen, he said, okay, we're going to do an icebreaker. We're going to count from 1 to 100. But you can't say a word. All you can do is, well, actually one person can say the number, but if we mess it up, then we have to start over. I was like, this is so stupid, but it was so much fun. It was so much fun, so engaging. So it's a really great book. He's got just a lot of really terrific ideas. All right. All right. Let's talk about stopping procrastination. So how do we do that, right? We want the light to be green, not to be red. All right. So the first is the salami technique. So slice it into smaller tasks, right? A lot of us get really, really overwhelmed by how big this thing is, right? So if we can slice it into smaller tasks, all the better. Another version of that is called the 5-minute plan. So I'm going to work on this for 5 minutes and I'm just going to start where I start, right? We know that sometimes the hardest part is to get started, right? So if you force yourself to do 5 minutes, suddenly you can find, wow, I'm going to really move on this, right? Lead task. So get started with one small part of a task, right? Maybe it's you're planning a party, but if I just made this one phone call, maybe that could get me started, right? Journaling. Mary and I talk about this all the time. We're very big on having a journal and writing down what you're thinking about it, your feelings about it. That can really help. Why am I procrastinating about this? At one point, I put a sign behind my office door that said, when are you going to start? And every time somebody came in for a meeting, the door closed and I saw that, when are you going to start? And one of my employees actually said to me when she left, not very long if it was me. I was like, okay, yes, thank you. All right, going public, right? Telling someone else what you're going to do can really help you, right? You don't want to embarrass yourself. All right. Worst first, eat the frog. Right? Maybe you've heard about this. If you eat the frog right away in the morning, the worst task will be out of the way, right? So get the nastiest thing done first, and then it's much easier to have a much better day. All right. Notifications and reminders, Outlook, sticky notes, positive affirmations, right? You can put little sticky notes that tell you you're doing a really great job, right? Or have a little reminder come up that says, hey, that project's due by the end of the week, right? Things like that. All right. Accountability partner. I am huge on an accountability partner, right? Who can help you, hold you accountable, call you on your crap, right? Ask you why you haven't started on that yet. You want somebody who's going to be very supportive of you, right? Not a bully. All right. All right. Keep in mind your mind plays tricks on you sometimes. So I'll give you an example of that. All right. I had a situation, this is about a year ago now. I had a conference call coming up in 45 minutes. And my brain said to me, 45 minutes isn't really enough time to do anything. I mean, if it was an hour, right, then I could get something done. My brain also said, remember, you have a goal of adding enrollment to your Success Minded Leader program that begins next month. So I had to really change my thought pattern. And that was this, Kevin, what can you do in the next 45 minutes to move toward your goal? All right. That shift resulted in me reaching out to 3 clients or potential clients during that 45 minutes. And then I gained a conversation with one of them that led to, it says potential enrollment agreement, but it led to an enrollment agreement, right? If I just allowed my brain to not have me do that, I wouldn't have gotten that work, right? So important. All right, I want to mention just a couple of, oh yes, so build a habit of challenging your thought patterns. I think that's really important, right? Want to mention a couple of learning tools that are available out on truenorthskills.com that can help you get yourself organized. First one is the one-on-one worksheet. I know a couple of you actually have this one-on-one worksheet, but it is a way to help you organize your one-on-ones with your teams. There are some autofill videos out there for Excel on utilizing the autofill tool within it to be more productive. I encourage you to join our Success Minded Leader Facebook group if you manage a team. Really, really good stuff that comes out on that Success Minded Leader Facebook group. And then finally, there is an Excel keyboard shortcut list out there, my list of 116 keyboard shortcuts. So feel free to run out there and grab that if you'd like. All right. All right. So don't forget, changing habits takes practice. 21 days of consistency to create a new habit, and it takes commitment. So if you don't stick with it, then nothing is going to be different, right? So really try to get focused on that. All right. All right. So that is our topic today, maintaining workday balance and productivity. Mary, we've got a couple of events that are coming up in the next few weeks and capping off with our next Lunch and Learn, which is Greater Success Through Positive Intelligence. Why don't you tell everybody a little bit about what that's going to be like next month?
So there are a lot of things that sabotage our life, and oftentimes those things are buried in our subconscious mind. So one of the things we're going to do is we're going to go through and take a quiz on your what we call saboteurs. It is from the book Positive Intelligence, and fabulous way of looking at life. So when you were talking about 45 minutes, I can't accomplish anything, you can make a baby in less time than that.
That's very true.
Sorry, that's just my twisted sense of humor. But we do have a number of Excel classes coming up. On September 12th, we've got our level 3 class. And then on September 26th, we're going to start all over with level 1. So one of the things that I think in improving your workday performance is improving those people that are around you. So if you're always being interrupted by someone asking how to do something on Excel, it's a great opportunity to teach them to fish, so to speak, so that you're no longer having to take care of their problems. They're learning to solve their own. And so I highly recommend sharing that with people around you. We look forward to seeing you in the next Lunch and Learn. Get out there and be productive.
Yeah, and if you want to register yourself for anybody for those, you can go to truenorthskills.com/events or soulcanyon.com/training webinars. We take registrations on either site, so feel free to do that. And I want to thank you for today. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you got some really good things out of it. I'll hang back here for a little bit, but thanks much for attending today.
And you'll receive your recording later this afternoon. Thanks so much.